Ndaitwah. Today we're doing a profile to get to know you as an individual and your early life, your philosophy, and your vision as the first gentleman of the country. Can you share your insights of your early life? Where were you born? Your background, where did you go to school, and your parents?
Yeah, thank you very much. I was born up north, near the area called Ondobe, well known as Ondobe Akaulinge. But I didn't grow up there because my parents moved to far east of Congo while I was very young. Therefore, I can claim as if I was born in Congo because that is the area I know much better. Having grown up there, I'm the third born of 9 children of our parents. And I'm the first son. I came after 2 of my sisters, and the first son. As the first son, I grew up looking after our livestock. My parents' livestock. I would claim it at the early age. I was just a cattle header. And that happened so many years until I think it was around 62 or so when something came into my mind, because our homestead was on the way when so many of my age are going to school. They used to pass at our place. And I asked my father, why don't I also start going to school? It was not an easy thing. Like I said, I was the first son of the family. Then that would mean if I would start schooling, or going to school, I would leave it all to my father, which is sometimes not always an easy job. I remember when I started, then my father told me, I will leave you to go to school, but remember, you go on Monday, for example, Tuesday you will not go because we will go and give you water to our animals. Wednesday you will go, Thursday you will not go. So goes on. That happened until exam. Because during our early days, you get your certificates according to the ranking, who came first and who came last. Then when we received our certificates, I was the last, because I was not able to write all the subjects. So I was the last. I didn't realize much. Then one teacher came to me. I think he felt it was not me. And then, what is, why are you lonely and not the rest? No. Then he looked at my certificate and said, okay, don't worry, it's only because you could have passed, it's only because you haven't written all the subjects. That's the time I started crying. Because I realized apparently I didn't fail, but it's because I didn't write all the subjects. Crying. Next year, we have to go and start again. Then some considerations maybe were given by the teachers. And say, okay, this boy must go to the next class. I think that was now standard 2 or so during our time. To cut the long story short. From that year, when I was given that chance, having felt bad, I was given that chance. Never ever have I felt again. And that is how I started. From there, that's now Congo. We head up to standard 5 as it were. Then the next time we have to go to standard 6. We moved from Congo for standard 6 to Onipa. Onipa is a distance from us. And going there during those days, you don't talk of how to go there because there was no transport. Had to walk. If you have to go and be at school on time, either you have to leave your home in a week's time. You sleep a night, you spend a night here, a night here, a night there, until you reach the final destination, which is Onipa. That was not great, standard 6. Then we managed, go to Ohangwena. Ohangwena, I think by that time, was it now a college or whatever, maybe it was a college or so. Then I ended up being in Ohangwena, and of course, I didn't finish the Ohangwena school. Why? The political environment was not conducive. So, 74, number one, I was expelled briefly from school. Then it was also a good moment because soon after I was expelled, then doors were open to us to leave this country. That was 74. Briefly on that, this is my short profile that I can maybe add unless otherwise.
So I'm going to ask 2 questions now.
Yeah.
Just if you want to wish you a happy birthday, which month were you born on, which day?
13 December, 52.
And you did mention that you got expelled. What was the reason that the school expelled you?
I mentioned about the political environment was not conducive because that by that time, the moment you get involved to politics, either you leave it or take it. Either you refrain yourself from politics, and if you don't refrain yourself from politics, then the likelihood to leave or to be expelled is very high. And that's exactly what happened to many of us.
Can you tell me how you got into politics at such a young age?
You know, sometimes things can happen without necessarily planning, but during our days, like I said, the political environment was not good because we were, for example, during those years when everything was in the hands of the South African white, you are driven by that to say, can I still stomach this? Can I stomach this? Because in Ohangwena at that time, there was a time when teachers, they will come to teach with their guns on hand. You ask yourself, must I stomach this? Are there no other opportunities for me to live in this environment? So that was the driving force that really motivated many young people to get into politics. And what was also happening, because our elders were already in exile, the founding fathers, the Bahambas, so we had a radio outside, which was heard inside Namibia. They motivated us, those radios motivated us. We have one particularly that was in Tanzania. It motivated us because we were listening, and even listening it, we don't listen to the public. Because once you are caught listening to the radio for SWAPO, broadcasting from Tanzania, then it becomes a case again. You have to find a corner somewhere to be able to listen what SWAPO is all about. And of course, like you said, by that time, for example, 74 when I left, I was just a boy of 21. Because I turned 22 while I was already in exile.
Can you describe the day that you left Namibia? That first day, and how did you, was it through buses? What transport did you also use?
Very interesting. When I was expelled, first I went to Walvis. Then I had one of my kind of relative, who is ambassador now in South Africa. We started planning because what happened again before we leave is when doors were opened to go through Angola. Why door opened? On the 25th of April, 1974. There was a coup in Portugal. And Portugal was the Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde. They were the colonies of Portugal. That means now they had a successful coup in Portugal. That is what helped the doors to open for the majority of us to leave this country through Angola. But it was not also any easy exercise. We planned now with my colleague in Walvis Bay. By that time I didn't stay there a long time. I just stayed and then the door were opened. We traveled from Walvis Bay through Rambland, as it were. We went through what is known as Oshikango town. On the other side, the moment you cross on the other side, at least you feel you are safe. We crossed, and one thing that was not there is a security. How will you go from here to where? One who had no idea of what the country was all about, called Angola. There was a language barrier because the majority of Angolans, they speak Portuguese, and hardly some of us can even pick up any single word. But because of that driving force, we have to force ourselves into Angola to see. And the whole idea, we were only talking about going to Zambia without knowing how to go to Zambia. But that was how we navigated through Angola until there's a long story again. But while there, I must just maybe bring one element as I'm talking about this coup what happened there. The little girl called Netumbo, she was the first 74. She was the first to leave this country. Today we refer as a president-elect, and possible in 80 days or so he will be the president of this country, by the grace of God. She was the first to leave this country in a company of 4 boys. And she was the leader of that group. She left after she was released from prison. She was released when she was a SWAPO Youth League chairman, as it were. Then she went through Angola with those 4 boys. 2 of the boys, I'm saying boys because they were boys that time. That's why I say the little girl, because she was a little girl by that time. The 2 boys are still alive. One is a doctor now, called Dr. Shaende. One is Abasta Ipinge. He was a counselor in Rakana at one time. Then in their journey, they were joined by 2 more. They become 7. These 2, they are still alive. Dr. Lea Gangala and Benny Ulenga. They become now 7. So they navigated right and right. You go here, you are told you are going to Zambia. No, here you are in Zaire now, because by that time DRC was called Zaire. No, you are in Zaire. This is not where you go the other side. So, but the person who is directing you is not to take you there. So that is, you are at the wrong place. You are at the wrong crossing, because sometimes you want to cross into, you know, it's the border. You want to cross, but you are told, you are crossing into Zaire. If you want to cross into Zambia, go the other side. Maybe you'll get some kind of help there to somebody to direct you where to go. That was a long journey, but eventually the majority of us reached the final destination, which was Zambia. But it was not an easy journey because you were going to a place or a country of which you have no idea which path to take. Now, the most difficult part of it was that of which now my wife has led. But after they have gone, there were a bit of the UN, United Nations, also came into Angola because they understood there are Namibians who are flocking from Namibia. They want to go to Zambia. They also came asked to assist where they can, but it was not easy because by that time, still the government in Angola was still in the hands of Portuguese, even though it was a kind of a transition. So that is what happened during that time.
You did mention that President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah was with 4 young boys that are now Tates now, and then they were joined by 2 more. How many people did you cross with, that you traveled to Zambia with?
You know, like I said, I crossed with my brother, the ambassador in South Africa, but soon after you crossed at Oshikango mostly, the group has been always growing, and I cannot really tell how many we were. It was rapidly growing, and then from Chicago, normally the next point was what we call Onjiva. At Onjiva, the group was still growing. It was still growing, but sometimes you do not know each other. It's only that well, maybe we are also upper members going in exile. So, but I cannot really tell how big the group was because it has been keeping on growing and growing. The moment we reach Zambia, because in Zambia, SWAPO has put up a receiving center now. That's now we are being received in a big numbers now. The group has been always members have been always arriving in the receiving center in Zambia. Then it was now from that center when we were now taken to in the SWAPO hands proper. Some have been sent to schools. Some have been sent for training, and that is that.
Now we're talking about your time in Zambia. You became a leading figure in SWAPO military wing, and as well as the People's Liberation Army of Namibia. Can you tell me about that? How did you go up the ranks?
Getting into Zambia, we had to go for basic training, some of us, the majority of us, because what was at stake is to go and fight the war, and I was part of that. You don't start being up high. You start as a typical soldier. We call it a private in our context. We call it the private. When you don't even have any rank, we refer that as a private. So therefore, don't be confused when I say private or private. But private is referred to the ordinary, that I think the proper way one will understand. Ordinary soldier. We did our basic training in a place called Toshatota. That's now in Zambia. It was not a distance from Zambezi, and then from there, some of us we were taken for further training to Tanzania. I was part of that at a place called Kongwa. When we were taken there, we were a group of 500. And would be saying 500 new recruits who have just gone through the basic training. The group of 500, 450 males, 50 females. Some of the people whom I can recall were together again is my brother Niwete, former PS Erastus Newonga, the former general at one time. He was Inspector General Police, General Anjima, Raonga Anjima, Pendukeni, Itana. He was the head of the girls group with 50 that 50, and so many others. Why many others? That was 74, 75. Some I can no longer really recall by their names. And I think as part of war, some of them have also sacrificed during the course of the liberation struggle. Now from there, a long story again, you start now growing. During the liberation struggle, 76, I came from Zambia. I was transferred to Angola. On the 20th of February, 76, it was the first time I crossed back into Namibia. We were in a group that was operating between Enana and the Congo and south of Enana, southeast of Enana, in that general area. That's where our group has been operating. And it's also a history that our group was the first to have been assigned to go and operate permanently inside Namibia. But soon after that, it was also joined by other groups, but ours was the first ever assigned to operate permanently inside Namibia. If I can go a little bit back, like I said, I was transferred from Zambia to Angola. We were in a group of 24. But that time, Angola was not yet independent. It was now independent in November 1175. And we left Zambia 75 again in November. And I must tell you, because there was no stability to go through Angola to where we finally want to be, it took us November, December, January, February, 4 months before we reach our comrades in Angola. And I was lucky enough, must say lucky enough, because the moment we arrived or we joined our comrades in Angola, I was lucky enough because we found a group being prepared to go inside Namibia. So I was picked from my group from Zambia, and I was attached to this group. And that's what happened, that on the 20th of February, 76, I was part of those who crossed into Namibia. Yeah.
What positions did you have in the People's Liberation Army of Namibia?
When we crossed inside Namibia on the 20th, I was again a private, just an ordinary soldier within that group. And it was from that group where I started climbing. We had what we call groups. Maybe you might have either 30 soldiers under your command, started having a group grown into what we structure we call detachment. Then I ended up being a detachment commander. Detachment commander, you might end up having either up to 100 soldiers under your command. That's one of the levels of being a detachment commander. Then again, after having done quite a lot also in Angola, I was transferred back to Zambia again. When I went to Zambia, we were with the Minister Kapofi, we were together when we went there, and I ended up given a responsibility of what we call the regional chief of staff. That means being a regional chief of staff, you have the commander, the overall commander in Zambia, then the regional chief of staff was the next to structurally. So I ended up being the chief of staff of that region. Might be one thing as I'm talking about Committee Kapofi, if my memory says well, I think we were about 6. But it's only him and I who survived. The group I've talked about of 2024, today we are only 5 remain. So the rest made a sacrifice during the War of Liberation struggle. So maybe let us come back home, because it really is a long story that we might not be able to finish. Then we were repatriated like all others. That's 89. Came back home. There comes elections. One of the challenging responsibility now, because you want at independence, you want to have a country which is secure by way of having soldiers. What our political leaders have decided, he said, we have former planning combatants, you have done your work. You have former SWATF, Southwest Africa Territorial Force, SWATF. You have done your work of preventing the independence to come even yesterday, because they were on the side of South Africa. They were cannon fodder employed by South Africans to prevent this independence we are talking about today. But because of the wise considerations, our president, Sam Lioma, is the first president of this country. He introduced what we call national reconciliation. Let us reconcile. We know ourselves now, we fought war until the last day. Planning combatants, SWATF. But he said, the war has stopped. Let us go for reconciliation now. You guys, you are all battle tested. Be it the planning members, be it the SWATF. You are the one who must form the nucleus of the Namibian Defense Force. So, that's how we have integrated. It was also not an easy process, because as soldiers who were still having guns on our hand, everybody was suspecting. You look at the SWAT and say, hey, this guy, you might get into deep sleep and you might not end up waking up the following morning. And the next SWAT was saying, hey, this is planning combat. These terrorists as they were known. Hey, how comfortable are we sharing the same room within the same barracks? So, but we ended up getting used to each other, adhering to the call of national reconciliation. It was now, after now we put up now the structures, because you cannot just bring the soldiers together, you needed them in structures. We had enough structures. I was I started as a lieutenant colonel by rank, and I was what we call the military assistant to the chief of the defense force. I was not his deputy, but it's an assistant. You help with the chief of the defense force administratively. 1 year later, I was appointed to establish one unit. We had some units here and there, but this unit was known, it was rather the biggest in the country, calls it, first we call it a regiment, but we structured it to mean, and they called it brigade. Brigade, the brigade was the first brigade after Namibia's independence. And I was the first commander of that brigade. That brigade has under it has 3 other major units. You might not understand it properly, but just listen to that. One was called Artillery Regiment, one AG Regiment, that's the Air Defense Regiment, one Anti-Tank Regiment. They were all under my command. I started in my headquarters was at Totavi, while one unit was at Totavi with me, one at Chuarongo, one at Osona base here. I moved my headquarters from Totavi to Chuarongo. Then after Namibia, after the reintegration of Walvis-Bay into Namibia, I got instruction to move the whole of my brigade to Walvis-Bay. That simply means when the last South African troops were leaving this country, I was the first commander to take over their base in Walvis-Bay. That's called Roykop. So I was there as the first commander, then I took over Walvis-Bay. I stayed there for, that was now 1994, I think. Then I stayed there. And being not the brigade commander, I was promoted not to the full rank of a colonel. Then in 1995, in December, I was recalled to come to the Ministry of Defense here again and do the staff work here. I didn't stay long in this post. I was transferred to Grootfontein, where we had a headquarters for army. Because sometimes you people used to confuse you. Whatever soldier you see, you say the army. The army is the ground forces. You have the Air Force, you have the Navy. By that time, of course, we never had the Navy and the Air Force. So I was transferred to Army headquarters to be the Deputy Army Commander. Now, serving there, I was again promoted to the rank of Brigadier General. There comes the war of DRC. Because we sent troops there, I also spent much of my time in DRC during the war. The war went there. It was now 1998, and then I have been deployed there until 2001, where our troops pulled there. Came back from DRC. I was again retransferred to the Ministry of Defense, exactly to the office where I had been operating before I was transferred there. That was where I stayed for quite a number of years, and in the same position, I was again promoted to the rank of Major General, And it was from that position from where I was promoted to become the Chief of the Defense Force with the rank of Lieutenant General. That's briefly the activities related to how I've been moving around the country with the ranks, different ranks, until I climbed the ladder up to the highest level.
From an ordinary soldier to the Chief of the Defense Force, what is your philosophy? How did you get there? What was your mind state? What really helped you gain all those ladders of
Number one, in every structure, be it a civilian structure, be it in a military structure, if your systems are working well, you just don't move up for the sake of moving up. People must look at the qualities, the capabilities, the abilities of doing that. Because to be the Chief of the Defense Force, you can imagine, you are responsible for the defense of the country. You are responsible for every soldier, whether deployed in the Zambezi, Kietimanshoop, whatever by, up in the sky, in the blue ocean. You are responsible for the defense of the country. It's something you don't take for granted. It's something you said, I've been entrusted with this responsibility. You ask God, what if, as a Chief of the Defense, what if one night you go to bed and you understand something is that has happened somewhere? What if? Therefore, it's a challenging responsibility. It's something that gives you sleepless nights. It's something that will make your brain always to roll and imagine what if. We have that particularly in the military, we have that kind of philosophy of what if, because you are always expecting anything to happen. Again, as a soldier, having soldiers under your command, how will you be responsible for every soldier deployed wherever? And sometimes even deployed outside the country, you will still be in charge. You have to ask yourself all those questions. You are responsible to get soldiers in combat, if you like, and getting into a combat. As the Chief of the Defense Force, you said, I want so how many soldiers to get into combat. Getting into combat, two things. There's no way that I can throw you in combat without going and kill. That's the mission. Go and kill the enemy. But because you have two commanders from different directions, you and your enemy on the other side, enemies also send the soldiers into combat to go and kill. Therefore, getting into combat is to kill or get killed. All those things, they will occupy your mind so that you bring in the element of training. You want to train the way you want to fight. You want to train, and after training, soldiers must be capable and able to get into combat, and if possible, get out of combat. Of course, you might not always decide how many must get killed, but you wish getting soldiers into combat, they must all come alive. But because of what I have said, it's a question of killing and they get killed. So all those, they will be always on the shoulders of a Chief of the Defense Force. Therefore, you must spend sleepless nights of asking yourself, what if?
Can you tell me some of the successes and challenges that you've had as the Chief of the Defense Force?
It's not always easy to talk about your own successes. People out there might say, these are some of the successes. But with regard to challenge, this force, by that time, it was still a force at its infancy. It was still a young force. Because force had also to grow. One of the challenges is to say, here I'm in charge now of the Defense Force. What are my priorities or my priority areas that I must address in order to make this force a force to be reckoned with? One of the challenges and the areas that I have identified that I wanted to address is only that I didn't stay longer, because I become a chief of the Defense Force in January 2011, then December 2013, I've already gone. But one of the critical areas I've identified that I wanted to address, but I don't regret because I still see some things happening even after I have gone. 3 things that I have identified that I wanted to address. Human resources development. I wanted to have a professional force, and you can have it once human resources are developed. Infrastructure development. You must have soldiers who are not sleeping outside or looking up in the open sky. They must have shelters over their heads. Lastly, it was equipment acquisition. All these 3, in my view, would have helped to make a professional force. Training of the soldiers, that's human resources. Where do they sleep after training? How best have you equipped them? These were my three areas that I have identified. As you asked about success, of course I know, before I left, within that short period of time I've been there were some noticeable areas that even those who were under my command, they know, I think we are getting there. We are getting there. So, like I said, I don't want to talk much about successes, because I will be biased if I talk about that. Maybe the history will tell that General Wali was there. These were some of his successes. But the challenge is what I have brought out, and that's what I wanted to address while I was the Chief of the Defense Force.
Now that you retired in 2013, what has been keeping you busy?
I must say, maybe before I can get into that, why I have stayed that short period in the force, as a Chief of the Defense Force. Because Chief of the Defense Force, constitutionally, he has no term, he has no age. Much, all of it will depend on the appointing authority. When I was appointed, I was not appointed to say, I have appointed you for 5 years or for how many years, or I have appointed you until you reach what age. By generation, I could say, if I didn't do what I have done, I could still be a Chief of the Defense Force if President Hage wanted to inherit me from President Pohamba. But at one time, I went to President Pohamba, was the appointing authority. Then I said, I'm now turning 60 next year. Oh, it was that year. Maybe I was now going to December and I will turn 60. And can I be relieved? Because I wanted to do something. And I will come now to your question. Number one, I wanted Lisa to be free at one time. Because since my childhood, until the time when I became the Chief of the Defense, I had not done when I was on my own. At a young age, I have to be with my father or my parents. During the liberation struggle, I have been under command of somebody, go do this, do this. came in the country, became the chief of the defense. There was no time when I was on my own. And that was one of the things that at least, Your Excellency, if you can relieve me. Relieving me, I wanted to go, like I said, at one time I was a cattle header. So I wanted to pay more attention to our farm. Because by that time we got our farm 2012. So I said, no, I want to go and have an understanding what farm is all about, other than being a weekend farm. Therefore, after I have retired, I spend much of my time at the farm, looking after our animals. Why it was also necessary is because when we bought this farm through Agribank, if we could not be close to understand what's happening, how will you be able to pay back to Agribank if you are weekend farmer? Because we have to look after animals, when to inject them, when to do what, when to change them from one camp to another for the survival. And I think that is what made us to survive and still to own that farm, which you are still paying to Agribank. Otherwise, I would say there was two things. I want to be free, because I never have been free at any time. Then the element of the farm came in. So that is where I've been concentrating much of my time.
Now we're going back to the day that you met President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah at the Zambian airport. Can you tell me about that day? What attracted you to her? What was it one thing?
I met her. I was coming from Angola. I went to Zambia. She was the deputy chief, SWAPO chief representative. At the chief of the defense, as chief representative also, you have to take care of people who are jetting out from Zambia. You have to receive those who are coming to Zambia. And she was the one who received us there. If I can maybe connect that to how we came finally to be who we are today. But at the airport, I was just impressed by this young, slender girl called Deputy Chief Representative. Hey. But at that time, I think I didn't move much. I was just impressed by that young girl. To say, hey, we have so young girls who can do the job, huh? This type of a job. Then immediately we went to the front. Don't ask me how it comes back again to say, hey, but that girl I've seen at the airport. But maybe it ended up with getting into my mind again, but it was not immediate. Maybe it ended up coming back to my mind. Hey, do you still remember? I might be asking myself, do you still remember that girl you saw at the airport? It was from there. Then by that time, I was in training in Yugoslavia. Then started making a conduct. Our conduct grew. That I want to marry you. Maybe scratch her head and they say, well, I have no problem, I maybe can also marry you. Then our relationship grew and grew until we decided to get married. When I came back from Yugoslavia, went back to Angola, still maintaining our communication until we decided that we must get married. I flew from Angola to Tanzania. Then on the 26th August 1983, we tied the knot. That's what happened. Then after marriage, or got married, because we have different responsibilities. She was now in Tanzania, and she was now the chief representative in Tanzania, responsible for East Africa. The rest of the East African countries, they were part of representation. So, because of different responsibilities, she has to continue with her job. I have to go back to Angola to do my business. Therefore, earlier on, it was not that easy to stay together because of different responsibilities. Not in the same country, we live in the different countries, one with the different responsibilities. So even when we returned back home, by that time she was sent to study in the UK. I was still in Angola. We have to arrive at different days, even different planes. She arrived from UK, I was arrived from Angola. Then we linked it up again. That was the moment one would say, at least we have started living close to each other, even though during those early days I was not necessarily staying because I was a commander out there in Walvis by Grootfontein, GRC, but it was not like as if it could not be compared. During the days of the Belgian struggle, while she was in a different country and I was in a different country.
So you guys have been married for 42 years now.
Correct.
What would you say is your biggest lessons that you've learned in the years that you've been married?
Maybe I must particularly talk about my wife. And as I'm talking about my wife, that then have also a reflection on me. My wife is a humble wife. I ended up, when she hit on that, ended up being, I said, she's the mother of my children. She's the mother of my children. Why the mother of my children is because, our house, and we lived here now since 90, in the same house here. There was no time when this house was not full to its capacity. The family members, the extended members, the what, schooling, doing this. We have graduated so many people from here, for students from here. And she has is a person who cannot discriminate. Because Shwambo, you have some, these are members from his family, these are members from my family. She always look to everybody, every child, every student as equal. We are parents of 6 children, 3 girls, 3 boys. They also our children, they never also had a freedom within that inner family, because the house was always full. And it also helped. In my view, it also helped. Because it helped for our biological children to understand how, as members of the same family, extended or whatever, can live it together. They never feel this house is too full of all this. But I must attribute this to my wife because she was the most who wanted everybody where possible to be accommodated here. After graduated, you move further, others will fill up your space again. Otherwise, I'm so lucky enough to have a wife like her. I never at the time have imagined to say, why her? I always feel it must be her. And I think that's also what made me to feel that the same girl I've seen now or marry me 42 years, it's the same girl I'm still seeing. She's growing in terms of age, but I can just see her as the same girl I've seen for so many years. And that she made it possible for me to feel it that way.
So going back to our questions of the lessons that you've learned through the liberation struggle while you two were both married together, being in different parts of the world, being in different countries, even being in the same country, you're in different areas. What are those lessons that you've learned that you have been married for 42 years now, still married?
Maybe one will look at that from different perspective. From the work perspective and social life perspective. The experience, one of the experience I would say is how difficult could it be, particularly if you are not in the same profession, if you like. Military man, it's a different profession. He's a politician proper, a different perspective. Different environment. Like I said, I've been living outside these premises. Sometimes when you say go for a weekend, because of her work, she has also gone for other work. Foreign mission, it was these things. There were things that if I think we were not mature enough, it could be a problem either for her to say, why my husband is not always not home, or I could say, why my wife is not always home. When you go for a weekend, she has traveled. You could have asked her all those, but we tend to believe that it's part of our different professions that we need and we must carry out and execute our assigned responsibilities. That's also, if I can also bring in the element of our children, they also grew up in the same environment. They don't see dad, they don't see mom. When they need it, when they want to. So different responsibilities have taken us away from our even children as they were growing. So, and I think that also helped them to understand that apparently it was necessary. That's why now I would claim that we are the responsible children because they have learned from their parents. They grew up in that way, and now they are. We don't have complaint. You know, in this country, sometimes, in most cases, we have young boys who are terrible misbehaving. Sometimes they go for drugs, or they go to all that drinking, and they get drunk. But honestly, we are content with our children. Now, it is only our last born son who is not yet married. The rest are married, particularly the boys. They have their own spaces. They are dependent on their own, but we don't look back and say, hey, are you behaving the other side? Because they were, or they grew up in a family from where they have learned a lot how to do things on their own.
President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has been in this political landscape for a while now. And how did you balance between your personal life and your public presence as the husband of a politician, now also as the husband of a president?
Good is good enough, because we haven't started yesterday. Started back, way back, while we were even extremely young, the time when we were not living together. And then this is just, this is just one of part of our life. It's just part of our path as we go. When we got married, she was still, by that time, she was still a member of the Central Committee, young as she was. I know I was married to a politician. She knows she was married to a military man. That is from where we have started balancing up the egg to say, I understand you, and you understand me. Therefore, it was not really something difficult to say, how did you manage that? Because we came of age. I had no idea, and she had no idea, that at one time she would be crossing the line to be where she is today. But when it came, she remains what she has been. When I say remains what she has been, there are no any signs to say, hey, I'm a president-elect now. She remains a wife. She comes home to attend time. She put on an apron, started cooking. One thing is I'm talking about the cooking, where we can a little bit can make her feel bad. I'm a person who doesn't like eat too much. Sometimes she will come cooking, maybe have been away, and say, oh, my husband is home now, I will cook. The moment the food is there, I will start scratching all over the body until she gets. She wants really to cook, and she, the husband, and the whole family is eating. That is the one area I don't know the proper word where I made her to feel bad. Having a husband who has been away, cooked, and then after that, the husband is scratching all over the body, whether eating or not eating, but yeah, thanks so much. You take a little bit small and say, thanks so much. So, but that was, honestly, there was not much to say. As she moved up, there's nothing much to say. How do we do things now? Because we do things as we've been doing things as husband and their wife.
Can you tell us about the last 10 years?
The last?
10 years. And did you ever imagine you're going to become the husband of the president?
I never dreamed about that. And she never also dreamed that they would one find she would be a president. This was brought about by people. In the political sphere, because it's a question of getting to the bodies for elections, either within the same party or within the people, because even 2017, when she became a SWAPO vice president, we had no idea whether that's where she will end or she will go to the land. But people will always dictate. People will always throw their feelings. And they say, don't end here. Why don't you go further? That's why 2022 was another Congress. The SWAPO party threw them to the people. It was the Prime Minister, Sarah Gongora Madila, and then Pamba Shifeta. They were thrown to people. So people must decide. That was now the form of a Congress. Then she came victorious from that Congress to be confirmed as a SWAPO vice president again. That was not enough. National elections is again to decide who will be the president of this country. And then November went to national polls now. The decision by the people that we go for Netumbo. All those things, they have their own period. All those is a question. Who will be? You might have that aspiration to become the president or to become what? But sometimes it is people who are driving you to say, we want you to become what? And she ended up what she is today, President-elect. And that was not by appointment, it was through elections. So, therefore, already some of the things you don't necessarily. Of course, there are those naturally who have an ambition that I must fight my way to get there. But there are times when some people are driven by the will and aspiration of people. We want you to be there. So,
what type of president are we, the Namibian people, getting? What are key qualities?
We are all human beings. Whether you are a president or you are a journalist, we all have our shortcomings, our aspirations. But what is needed from a leader is to lead from the front. Lead from the front. Lead by example. But while you are leading from the front and by example, you must not let people feel they are just there. You will only succeed when you enjoy the help and assistance from people whom you are leading. I like one author who said, leadership is about doing right things. As a leader, expect to do right things. So that people say, that is our leader. Can't you see? You are expected to do right things. And the possible, those who are following you, they must expect the same what I'm talking about. They expect to do things right. You do right things, others must do things right. Meaning, as you move, those who expect to do things right He must be able to help you where it's necessary. There's also this understanding that as a country, it's like we are all in one big ship, deep in the ocean. One captain is responsible to steer the ship. Others must also responsible to help the captain to steer the ship. Because once this ship has sailed, it will sink with all of us. With other words, the president will not have all capabilities necessary to steer the country. His successes must also depend on those who are around that president. That's why structurally, you find countries have different, normally three arms. The legislature, those who are responsible for making the laws. It must be able to help the president when she or he signs something into law. It must be something that has gone through all scrutiny, so that you don't end up pushing the problem to the president and to end up signing something which is not, or sending something which is not correct. You have the executive, that's the cabinet. While the cabinet is appointed and exclusively appointed by the president, it must not be just a question of filling the space. It must be a question of quality, of appointing people who will be able to deliver services. Then, of course, we have the judiciary, which is now people who are also, and these are all independent bodies. So, therefore, the point is the success of the country or the government will not squarely rest into whatever capability or abilities or whatever skills or knowledge of the president. It must be for everybody, even those who are not in the structure I've spoken about, people out there, journalists, see where you can help. So that is what will make the president to succeed, regardless from which country. It's not one man or one woman show, but it's a national responsibility, and the national responsibility must be the responsibility almost for everybody. Otherwise, we will sink with that ship, and once you sink, of course, what do you expect? We will all die. We will all perish.
You mentioned that President Netumbo is a humble wife. Are these also the type of qualities we are getting as a president? We're going to get a humble president?
That's what I think. She's had been described by some, maybe I'm not just joining them, who have been saying she's a good listener. Because you know there are times when some of us, you and me possibly, we don't listen to understand, we listen to answer. And it makes a difference between listening to answer and listening to understand. She has been described as a good listener, and when you are a good listener, that will help you to make a good judgment as well. You are told and you are listening, you can now sit down and say, why don't I take this idea? In life again, we have also what we call win-win situation, win-lose situation, lose-win situation. But I can say she's a person who is, whom I can say, she likes a win-win situation. When I say win-win, as we are sitting here in a meeting, for example, and maybe I'm the chair or you are the chair person. You don't want the others to feel they were not listened to. You want when we get out of the meeting, everybody will say, I think that's our idea, because we were so accommodated in those ideas. Therefore, she's a kind of a person that I think she falls into that category of win-win. Because a win-lose situation is when you make others to feel I was never listened. It's not to say every idea that will come in will be accommodated, but as long you were listened to, for one to be able to make a judgment, then they will feel it's good. And that's also what will make people to own some of the projects. Because like I talked about the meeting, if you were sitting here and they want to come up with something, and then finally we decided to come up with something, everybody will all know that, because I have also made my contribution. I was also listened. But if you discriminate others by not listening to them, the moment you say, okay, let us now go for implementation, in any case, it's not our idea. I was just a participant, but I was never given a chance to air my views. I think this is one of those people that I think like this win-win situation. Therefore, with the assistance from across the bigger spectrum of our society, I think she will be able to lead us to the future.
How do you plan on supporting President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah's success, and what are the contributions that? How do you plan on contributing to her success and to her presidency? What role do you see yourself playing in ensuring that her administration is a success?
Number one, of course, as a partner, as a husband. I see no reason why I must not support her where I can. Psychologically, I must stand by her. But what I think I'm not in a position to do, I want to leave much of a job, the political work as a president, on her. I don't want to get or to interfere or to be seen running the show. She's the president of the country. They have already said people out there must be able to assist her in order to be able to steer the ship. But I cannot fold my hands and say, in any case, she's the president. Well, I can I can, without really coming out clear and say I can help her in here and here and here. But as a husband, I don't want also to see my wife failing. Simply because maybe I was not able to help her where I can. But I leave much of it to the people, to her cabinet, to the legislature, to the judiciary, and to individual people out there to help them. And I will be one of those individuals. I will join that bigger group of individuals and say, well, where I can. Because when we are home here, what is the husband? Maybe I can say, oh, but my wife, what do you think? And of course she can also argue, oh, my husband, what do you think? And they cannot, because you are the president, I'm thinking nothing. So, therefore, where I can resolve that I don't want to be running the show. That's not me. And good enough. We have stayed together for a very long time now. We understand each other. We know each other. When she's screaming, I will say, why are you screaming? I never have seen you screaming for that long. So, can I help where I can? So, but I will leave the rest to the nation out there. Like I said, to the legislature, the cabinet, the judicial. Those are the three arms of the government. I think they will be they are in a better position to help here on this and that.
Are there any specific courses or initiatives that you are passionate about that you can contribute?
As what?
As the first gentleman.
Oh, you mean that?
Yes.
Maybe let me start by saying, to be a spouse to the president, whether female or male, the spouse doesn't need any qualification. The only qualification you will get is when your wife or your husband become a president, you are automatically qualified to be the spouse, to be the first gentleman or first lady. You don't need to go to school and say, I want to become a first lady or first gentleman. Or you are not looking at it and say, but it's the president, but I think the husband or the wife is not qualified. It's automatic. But you don't want to go there because your spouse has qualified you and you simply don't do anything. You want also to do something. But what I must point out, it's not an easy job. Because you want to do something, you must go out, not to the government, because your office, in terms of what to do, is not sponsored by the government. It's not financed by the government. There's no budget to say, you have 1 million, you said you want to do what? Okay, you have this money. You must go out and appeal to some other nations or individuals. Say, well, I want to drive this, but can you help? You can now come up with either a foundation, for example, to say under this foundation, when there are some coins dropped there, I want, for example, to help the most vulnerable Namibian child. Because we have some vulnerable children in this country. Maybe you can sit down and say, well, how do I want to help them? Am I looking at those who are in the streets to get them out of the streets? Am I looking at those who are disadvantaged by one way or the other? Can I maybe look at trying to see if I can help youngsters to go out for sports. Because people say the idle mind is a workshop of a devil. If you have children, youngsters out there doing literally nothing, not busy with this and that, they are what's in my mind, it might end up being the devil's workshop. Maybe one can look at that. I haven't established something yet, but I don't want to be there and just fold my hands, I'm a first gentleman, and I end it there. I want to be there, and the way I can, I must go out and seek assistance to help the identified groups. So, but as of now, I haven't yet. But the underlying effect is, when you are there, if you get an allowance from the government ends there. The rest is up to you from where you can source whatever finances if you want to address some problems that you have identified.
You mentioned a lot about youngsters and the youth, and is that coming from the fact that you as a young person had to seek education for yourself?
That might be a point, yeah. Because, for example, the government policed constitutionally so that all our children must be able to go to school, regardless whether they are poor or rich. They must be able to go to school. But sometimes we don't see this happening. We still can see people at the crossroads, young ones who are appealing for any kind of assistance. Then you ask yourself, is it might be, are they orphans? Or is it might be that their parents are so extremely poor that they cannot even send their children to school? So these are some of the areas when you look at them, difficult as they are, but sometimes I think you can even think that they are difficult, but if our constitution said children must go to school at this age until up there, what does that mean that those who are responsible even for the government, they do not see those children who are roaming around without going to school? Maybe somewhere one needs to pull the socks and say, something must be done. And of course, the point even I'm making of the children on the streets, it's not the responsibility of first gentlemen. It's by overall responsibility of the government, because the government must notice, the government officials mean that they should have seen also, and they know that we have people, but what do we do? What's the government doing? So, I will leave it there.
What are your aspirations for this role that you're about to step into? What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Brought an element of legacy. Honestly, I've reflected that I don't want to sit down collecting allowance because my wife is qualified me to collect it. I want, or maybe I must say that naturally, or let me talk about myself. I'm not, I will not draw a program to say, if I draw up this program, it will help me to leave the legacy altogether. if there will be a legacy, let someone come after I've gone or while I'm there to say, oh, now we are seeing things are happening differently. But myself, I will not talk about, I want to leave what kind of legacy. I don't know how to draw up a program of leaving the legacy behind. As I was giving an example, as you move, as you walk, you will leave footprints there. If you want people to follow where you have gone, they can get into your footprint. That's the least part of the legacy you left behind. That's how, and you are not planning to say, one day as I go, there must be my footprint. But automatically there will be a footprint. And even people who might be moving around and say, oh, somebody has moved here. Because there's a footprint. But you don't necessarily, in my view, you don't necessarily plan to have, to say, I want to leave a legacy. But if I will leave a legacy, I also don't want to leave a bad legacy. Because legacy is not something always which is positive. Legacy is what you leave behind. Whether bad legacy, if you have been a thief through much of your time, that's the legacy you will leave behind. But that girl, finally that has gone, but she was really a bad girl. That's your legacy. Sometimes you don't plan to say I want to be a bad girl, but the interest in you will make you to be a bad somebody. To cut a long story short again on that, I'm not planning whatever legacy I can leave behind, but what I will do will form part of the legacy that I will leave behind. If I will sit down in the office doing nothing, that's the legacy I will leave in the office. That hey, he has been there, but do you know what? The legacy is of doing nothing. If you be active and I think finally has gone, but I'm telling you, that's the legacy. This is the legacy. This is the impact he has left behind.
So you've written several columns on international relations. This shows that you are really interested in political or global political development. Would you describe your general political perspective or philosophy as being centrist, liberal, or conservative?
Without going to the liberalism, centralism, and what I must say is, when I finally retired, like I said, I wanted to have a broader space where I can do this and that. Soon as I have retired, I was approached by then the Vice Chancellor of UNAM, who wanted me to join at UNAM. We struggled for a very long time. I was resisting. You say, I wanted, I retired because I want to have a rest. Now you want again me to make me busy. In the process, I gave up because Professor Lucas Angola, he was persisting. Until I said, maybe I can join you part-time. Then I said, it is all good. Then I joined a part-time. They have what they call military science school. I used to lecture there. I'm happy that when I move around, I've seen some of people whom I have contributed of teaching them or lecturing them. Some of them are graduates now. While I was lecturing there on part-time, I was also approached by IUM, the founder, Professor Namwanje. General, I want you to join us. I resisted. General, I want you to join us. I asked myself, why all these professors, they always want me to join them? I gave up again. Here it was no longer even a part-time, it was a full-time, with the level of a senior lecturer. I've been doing that until I said, Namwanje, I think I've done my part. Can you release me? Then he went further saying, I will release you from now, always, every morning you will come here as a part of the what's name, but I will make you, I want you to join the governing board of UNAM, of IUM. I joined them again. Why I joined them is that the governing board is not everyday activities. You just convene when you need a meeting. After maybe some months, I joined them. But last year again, I said, thank you so much, if you can relieve me now. So they relieved me. The point I'm making is that all those times when I was now lecturing here and there, it was an opportune moment for me to open up. And that is from where particularly I've started writing articles. I used only to pick up one article. Something can just come into my mind and say, well, I want to write about that. And then once I started, I'll write something. As of now, apart from the articles, I have also authored 2 books. One book is about or contains all the articles I've been writing. Because people have been demanding, oh, General, but you know, this article says, now we have cuttings, and if you can compound this into a book. Until I picked up the case and said, well, people are too much complaining. I remember one comrade at one time, because you know, people used to rush or run for Confidente, because that's the only paper that has been publishing my articles. Others I don't know why, because first I started sending articles to all of that, it was Confidente, and then now people started now saying, if one Thursday will go without an article, somebody started, hey, you know, there's a drought, man. When I bought a Confidente, there was nothing. So they were suffering from a drought. When there's nothing, to them they refer it as a drought. And I said, oh, well, let me sit down, compile all these articles, put them in a book perspective, add values, and take things that were only meant for whatever. Then I came up that book. Interest was mounting. As I was about to finalizing the manuscript of this book, then something came also into my mind, because that is also one of my area I mastered. I have a master's degree in strategic studies. Master's degree in strategy, of course, strategic studies depends what you are talking about when you talk about strategy. You can talk about the politics, you can talk about what it's a broader thing. Then what came into my mind, I said, while I'm finalizing this, much of this is not a research items, it's just articles that I wrote. I want to do a research and also author a book on strategic studies. When they were launched in 1917, they were launched on the same day. It's only that in our country, Namibians, we don't necessarily read inside, we read it from the cover. My books have been with the book then as a trial since 2017. For a trial, very few books. I think there were 5-10 books. Until last year when I visited, is when I told, oh, your book has been sold now. But it took years just to buy out 10 or 5 books of copies. But the old people saying, they said, yeah, that book, it's nice, man, but they are reading from the cover. They don't buy. And sometimes it's discouraging. And I think that's part of what has discouraged Namibia, because when you visit these bookshops, the books you are seeing there, they are not necessarily written by Namibians. Because I think Namibians have been discouraged, maybe, from writing. Of course, I was not writing it to make money. I was writing because I have that passion of reading. I know that question will come in the program. I'm preempting you. I like reading, particularly after I graduated with my master's in strategic studies. I like always things related to strategies, leadership, the management. I don't believe many of these books in the bookshops. I always buy them because I want to understand what others have written about the strategies, about the leadership, about the what's name. So I always that briefly answered your question. From where did I come to end up writing those articles? I was just having that in mind, that because I just wake up and say, today I want to write about that, so that the next Thursday there's a publicity about this article. That's how I write. I don't do necessarily, when I write something, I don't necessarily write for a week or whatever. Once I sit down, things just start rolling, and then the following morning I send it to Confident, and the first day the article is there. That's a brief on that.
So while writing your 2 books, what philosophy did you develop, and what is your perspective on politics?
Number one, I want to add knowledge to the academia. That's primary. To add to academic world, because the world is not a global village, and there might be people there who might want. In any case, while I'm there, what I've done after my books, I think, if my memory says with me well, I gave 2 free different copies, 15 to UNAM, to IUM, to NAST, to Swapopat School. I gave them 3 copies, 30. That's part of my philosophy, that I don't want this work to end with me only. Whether they are useful now to those institutions, it's not what I'm saying, but I made them possible. I donated them to the institution because I said these are higher institutions of learning, and that is, I think you even made me to think that maybe one day I will visit some of their libraries to see whether I will see some of those books they are underlined here and there. That will give an idea that there are students who are picking something from these books. So that was my philosophy was to share knowledge with people out there, particularly, and these books I'm talking about. You as an author, you don't you don't, how do you call it now? You don't classify them yourself. It is the printer or the publisher. These books were published in Germany, and they are the one who classified those books. And these two books, they are all classified as political science books. It's not me who classified them, but they are political science books. As they are political science books, I strongly feel they need to be in the institution of higher learning for our students, for our children, to understand the world around them.
So from a general's perspective, what is the role of the military in politics in Namibia?
Maybe I must not say military, role in Namibia, but globally, military, we are all the same. Military, by their design, they are the instruments of a state. Our constitution is very clear. The role of the Namibian defense constitutionally is to defend the territorial integrity and national interests of Namibia. Those are key. To defend the national integrity and defend the national interest. Defending the nation, according to the constitution again, there must be compositions or structures. That's why our structures of the defense force, 3, the ground force, that's the army, they are mostly noticeable in most cases. The air force, guys up in the sky. Navy, guys up in the blue ocean. Is to defend, the constitution is to defend the nation. That means we are the instrument at the disposal of the government. Should there be threats, we must stand ready. We don't do things on our own. We do things because that's why the head of the defense force, called Commander-in-Chief, is the president. And then cascading it down from the Commander-in-Chief, in terms of in a uniform now, you will lend it to the Chief of the Defense Force. Because the Chief of the Defense is the immediate commander to the forces, reporting also to the Commander-in-Chief. Hence, when you see us doing this and that, it's because we are doing that because the Commander-in-Chief has said, for example, now during the death of our late president, when we had his body moved around, it's the Commander-in-Chief who instructed that I want to take the body of the first Commander-in-Chief around to the regions to say, for people to say goodbye, and also for him to say goodbye. Otherwise, defense forces or military, particularly in democratic countries, we don't. Of course, there are those what we call implied tasks. Sometimes, because we are already within that authority, we don't expect the president always to come and say, move this bottle, move this bottle. Those are implied tasks that is in charge, you do this and that. But within the political structure, we don't necessarily have a role to play within the politics, but we will remain the instrument of the state. If we have to play a role, it is within that given political structure that the political leadership, they want us to do what?
There are those who question the influence of the spouse, to say that they might influence the spouse on policies or decision making. How do you address those concerns, or how do you avoid potential misconceptions.
Maybe I didn't get you well.
Yes. So there are those that there are concerns
Oh, yeah.
who question the influence of the spouse on decision making and on policy making. How do you address those concerns, and how do you intend to avoid misconceptions?
I think that is what I have said earlier. To say, I will not get involved into kind of open policy influencing. I won't. I want to be what I am. That position is not necessary to, but it depends on the individuals. But that position is not really for you to go and influence policies and otherwise. Your position, like I said earlier on, you are only qualified because your spouse has reached it there. And why you are not qualified and you end up wanted to make influence for public policies. Therefore, I will remain. I know. I think to me, I will draw my clear cut line that I will not cross this line. I must say we are going. This is my ban, and that is the ban where others must play a role. As I said earlier on, she's my wife. I'm the husband. Doesn't mean that I must not say anything. I might even sometimes seeing things going wrong. I say, Your Excellency, I have noticed, because I will not be blind. I can see some of them that she's not seeing, or she's not picking up, or she's not being informed of. I can say, well, I've seen something seems to be going wrong somewhere. Of course, you might call it policy influence, but I cannot see things going wrong, and I pretended to turn my blind eye as if I'm not seeing anything going wrong, because by so doing, that is tantamount to say, I want my wife, who is the president, to fail.
Do you have any other misconceptions or comments that you would like to clarify or make about yourself?
Yeah, some of the things we will cross the bridge when we reach there. But what I can say is only that we, as a nation, we are expecting a change in the administration. Of course, there are people saying a female president, but I think this is not because she's a female president. If this is a qualification, again, I condemn it, because, as somebody who will lead the nation, just look at the qualities and the abilities of leading the nation. Because if you end up just saying the first female president, what do you expect from that first female? It must be serious delivery that you must expect from her. And I also don't think it's my own words again that maybe she might also not always be happy to be referred as a female. It's a female, it's a first female, yeah. But that must not be a weapon to say now we have a first female. What do you expect? What do you expect from that person? It can be a female, it can be male. But what do you expect from that person? Because a female is also not a qualification of effective service delivery. It's just a person you are referring it to. Therefore, as a nation again, our epicenter as we move forward is to say how will we move forward as a nation with this history. Of course, now this case having a female president, what do we expect from her? What is our aspirations? How do we link ourselves to her to be able to deliver? You know, the last Congress, which was last Saturday, maybe I must also bring in this element. Some things, they are happening without necessarily being planned. This Congress was planned to take place on the 28th of last month up to the 1st. How nature have made itself to happen, my soul rest in peace. The first president was taken away. Then the plan was we are mourning, and we are putting our president to his resting place on the 1st of March. That means those days that were occupied by the Congress seem to be, they are now occupied by the president who departed us. How things again happened there, when the president left this country, it was on the 1st March, 59. It coincided now with his death and then with his date when he left the country. Then without any further plan, then this Congress was set on the 80th of March. What happened again? Maybe many people, including myself, just realized, today is a Women's International Day or International Women's Day. It coincided again that the female president now was now confirmed by SWAPO as the president of SWAPO on International Women's Day. Things are just pushing themselves, balancing themselves. Just maybe to end it there, SWAPO, since its inception, for the last 65 years, has been always led by men. She's the first president of SWAPO. This government, since its inception for 35 years, it has been led by men. It is only this year, this March, this month, when everything is changed to female. The female president of SWAPO, the female president of the country. By the grace of God, few days left, I think we will be able to take this. This is what the general was telling us. Now she's now at the summit of the government. So my plea is that as a nation, we must not, our jubilation must not end for having a female president. Our jubilation must continue to see what do we expect from her and how best can we help her to deliver.
Okay, now these are not so serious questions.
Well, very good.
What do you enjoy doing outside of your public life? How do you pass the time? And how do you spend your free time?
So the serious questions, yeah? I'm a very simple somebody. I'm not necessarily very much specific on how I pass time. But I will just answer to some of your questions that are coming. Of course, number one, I like reading. I spend some of my time reading. I like, this is also to answer one of your questions. I'm a soccer fan. Soccer fan, that is sometimes when there's a soccer, I don't want to feel the things I want to consider. But again, one thing I've learned with the soccer. First, I thought loving soccer is for every team. But loving soccer is when your team is playing. If your team is not playing, you don't realize that there's a soccer playing. There are soccer teams playing. I like soccer, and I was a soccer player myself. I like volleyball. I was a volleyball player myself during our times. I like rugby. I didn't play rugby, but two of my sons played rugby. And probably that's what influenced me also to like. But like I said, sometimes it's about the team, it's nothing is about that specific whatever. When some rugby are playing, like the Springbok, the All Blacks of New Zealand, those are the only teams I like watching. Others can play, but I don't recognize this rugby being played. With soccer, first I started loving our earlier team of Brave Warrior, to the extent that I knew most of the guys, the Bibo guys, the Congo Angels, I used to know them, and they were playing soccer. Whether I would go to watch or I will watch. But today, don't ask me who are those boys who are well. I only knew two boys, Peter Sharulile and the Hoto. And they are not necessarily local players. They play this, but the rest locally, I'm off. I've been put off now. My team outside is, what I say it with a broken heart, it's Manchester. And then now ask me, why should I have to be with this team again? Because since 2013, when I have retired, they never won anything. And that was the year when Ferguson, who was the manager, has gone on retirement. They gone on retirement at the same time, on the same year I've gone on retirement, but never ever, but Manchester was a force to reckon with. But today what remains is only the name, nothing else. Sometimes I don't even watch them playing because I don't want to go down in my eyes. Sometimes I read, hey, did they manage? 2-1 man. 2-1. Hardly, even when they are winning, they can win without, with a clean sheet. I'll give you there two. Of course, they were, the one was on the. It was my team. Yeah, I'm still, it is still my team, but honestly, it's a team which is dead. It's only the name. It's only the name. So I spoke about like reading, like sport, Sports, that's where I spend, I think, much of my time. What else might be? That's where I spend much of my time.
You mentioned you like reading. What is your favorite book?
There are some authors that I have fallen in love with. I have Stephen Richard Covey. He's an author. He wrote so many books. One of their favorite books, and that's what I have started reading first, it was The 7 Habits of Effective People. When you read that book, you would wish to go to the next copy. So he wrote so many books. I don't want to list them, but I like it because he's also more about the leadership. About most of his books is about the leadership. There is also one I like. Is Peter Druck. Peter Druck is also written quite a number of copies. But this is a long time now. Even the Stephen Covey, he passed on 2012. But the legacy we're talking about, his books are there. Those are the legacy left behind. We are still talking about them. We are still reading about them. So there might be a number of books again, but I just singled out particularly those two.
Who are your favorite philosophers and why?
The
Philosopher.
You are taking me back to whom I talked about. It's Stephen Covey is my philosopher because I like his writing, and I think he's the one also motivated me to try if I can venture into that. It is his philosophy that also motivated me to like him, and I think he's one of my philosophers, I would say.
What kind of music do you enjoy listening to?
Country music. If I would be specific, Donny Williams, don't leave it out. Alan Jackson, don't leave it out. Kenny Rogers, and to the founder, Jimmy Rivers, and Charlie Pride. So, country music is my favorite, but those are the most favorites. And I have also influenced my children. When they travel, or when you see them, it's about Tony Williams or about Alan Jackson. They don't know any other music, but I remember one of them, one of my sons, said, well, it's all right, blah, when you engage with them, they asked me, but why country music? That, what can I do? Because that is from home. So country music are my favorites. Some other music I listen to them for the sake of listening, but country music, normally, they are my favorites.
Is listening to music the only way you spend time with your family, or are there other things you guys do together as well?
There was a time when sometimes when our children were young, when we used to go on trips, particularly in Namibia, took them for trips to understand here and there, and maybe we got the neighborhood and all the rest. But now things are, much of our time are taken up by other events. That to find a little time to move around. But what is happening now, particularly with our sons, I think based on that influence, they also now like going out. Last weekend, 2 of their families went out just to come back to celebrate that Mom is the president of Swabona. but they went out. So our influence has gone to them now, as we are finding little time, but we also spend a lot of our time at our farm, particularly with my wife, and at our village down at Congo. That's where when we have time, when a bit of break, because she also like when it's this time, she also like working in the field. Therefore, we are in most cases now between here farm and the village.
When you said your family likes to go out, is it traveling or going somewhere to sit?
Yeah, that's what I said. I think we have grown with that out now. But if you like, there are when we are all around here, there are families like coming home either for a bride. You find them crying there while we are aging, relaxing. But they will come. They used to come here particularly for bride. That's what the brother used to bring us together these days.
Talking about food, what's your favorite?
If I have it all. If I have it all. Honestly, like I said earlier on, that I'm a poor guy who doesn't like eating. I used to like meat. Meat has been my biggest favorite. The beef, the goat meat. But I've been discouraged. Too much meat. But now, your advice, take more veggies. That's what I think. That's what that's my favorite. But I used to. But now currently, I don't really have something that I can say. I don't want to miss it. Yeah.
Thank you for interview.
Kind of you. Kind of you for torturing me with all those questions.
Thank you.